your focus has been deep in production chains, working out how to visualize those. But you're saying you have had time to actually play the game since it released?
I paused. Hey, I was going crazy trying to make my web stuff work for release. I think even testnet, something like that.
Yeah.
So I was going crazy for testnet, and then I did testnet, and I realized I didn't have, as much as I'd lived with this data for 3 years, I didn't have an opinion on it. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what was valuable. I was trying to see the shape of it, but I couldn't, I hadn't
Yeah.
even bothered thinking about what I wanted to do with it or what it meant to me. So testnet kind of made me realize that after such a long time in this community, I didn't actually have a plan for the game, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in the game, and that kind of freaked me out a bit. It's like, oh, geez, I'm going to miss this moment, and I don't actually have a plan. So
I
I
have a
just,
similar story actually. So I did not get to participate hardly at all in testnet after having been in community for years since 2021. And then I came back literally the day of the full release, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I feel that.
it's tough, hey. Like I did testnet, and the first time, what did I do? I had 3 teams of pilots, and I got my first pilot, and he unlocked all my rocks and ships, and then I realized that I couldn't transfer them, so that one pilot had to go up and down for 18 hours, 4 times, just to get my 4 ships. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that on mainnet. So then I learned. So it's just, the beauty of that is you get that first lesson, and because it's the first time you've ever interacted with the mechanics, the
Yeah.
timing, the wait, 45 minutes for this thing. And I remember first testnet, it was actually a bit of a shock and a bit depressing because, you've got these rocks miles away, and you can't get there. Like there's not enough stuff. The fuel tank was half the size. Like you're like, I'm never going to be able to get to my rock in the entire history of this game. And then, obviously, community lobbied and things got better. But yeah, the first thing was like, man, this game is so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, brutal. And just
Very.
like sending something the wrong warehouse miles away and 80, it's like, oh my God. So yeah, so I'm glad for me, testnet was a good kind of, oh yeah, cool, all right. It is, yeah, it's that kind of game, good. And it kind of made me commit to, so hence for main, I basically just said, I'm going to start an AP. I'm not going to rush. I'm just going to build a footprint, get this little recipe cooking, be self-sufficient, and try and make some things, and not even to worry about rushing off my rock because
Yeah.
that's such a cost. And yeah, and I didn't know if it would be sustainable yet. So that's been my kind of opening plan is to actually build a little AP unit.
So this is the good segue. So tell us about your gameplay at the moment. The question I ask everyone is, where is home for you? So AP clearly at the moment.
Branching out, hey, slowly. So yeah, so I guess one of the other things is I went for the dark side. So I figured with my production stuff, I was pretty self-sufficient. I just need raws, and they're everywhere. So the saline region had the raws I needed, and I figured I like being the away from the crowd. That's basically. So I figured, oh, I can be a big fish in this small pond over here. Is
Hmm.
the sort of vibe I had. Hey, uh, I miscalculated because I had no modules here. So when I first built, everything had to come for like 9 hours across the planet. And I
Yeah.
was flying LTs and doing the little bunny hops with LTs to ferry stuff.
Oh yeah, me
But I
too.
figured, yeah, I figured like that wasn't talked about much on the Discord. And I thought, that's really, and I could see all these arcs of things coming towards me. And it's like, oh, now I can do that like instantaneously. So
Yeah. Why
it's pretty
walk
good.
when you can fly, and you can tug in and out, so it doesn't cost
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. And if you've got a recipe and you're down one stupid thing and it's in Arcos, you can literally get there. You can be back and done in 5 minutes rather than 9 hours of transfer time.
Yep. If you want to burn that.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing, right? Fuel wise. So yeah, so I basically committed to that area as okay, I'm going to be big fish, small pond. Then basically just by virtue of the heat maps in the area, so that was the hottest water bit. So
Hmm.
that's so basically chose this area as basically being a lump between water and methane, and then my base was just in the sort of dead zone in between, if you like.
Oh, that's you. I wondered who was on that methane patch.
Yeah, I snuck in early. Hey, like I know in the live drop for mainnet, like that L2 sway didn't unlock for a little while, but then I remembered I had L1 testnet sway or something. So I managed to claim that. So I had like free reign for a little bit while
Hmm.
everyone else was spamming the claim button. But it wasn't hectic. Like it was pretty quiet down here. It wasn't too much of a rush for things. So it's been pretty good. Like there's a few people kicking around. I think this is Arcas over here, recent kind of growth. And then there's another one over here, which seems pretty good with the marketplaces.
Not
But yeah, kind
so, not so where I was near Watertown. Mad rush for the good methane spots, and they went pretty quick.
yeah. But then the ring opened up, right? Controversial.
The
So
ring,
all
the
your way.
ring where I literally put my 20 warehouses.
So I have those two things, and then because of appetite, which is stupidly up here with something else, I've got a weird little somewhere up there anyway. Oh, there we go. I've got a weird little enclave that's like 4 hours away. That's for appetite, bitumen, and I think base
Uh huh.
monoxide or something. So kind of sparse, but had a little bit of everything because of my recipe. I knew exactly what I needed and what amounts, and this suited my ratios, and I like the idea of being able to serve modules and more advanced things to this region.
It's what you're making food.
Well, yeah, so I have a couple. So I guess I have one team. Well, basically, food, core drills, and propellant is one of my recipes. So I guess once I sussed out a few chains, then I realized that obviously at the base level there's so much overlap. So if
Yes.
rather than run 3 times of wet sulfuric acid, you can condense it once and know where it goes. So that's been the beauty of some of my system is it does a lot of the condensing for you and works out when the best place is to do that once, big time. So that's been good. So basically those 3 things kind of merged quite well together. You just add on a few things and suddenly you're making prop. So that, and those were the staples. And I figured I didn't want to ever buy someone else's food or someone else's core. If you're going through core drills, I want to just make my own and then
Mm.
sell the rest. So that's been one main thing. And then I was like, oh, I need to get more ambitious. That's good for staples, but I want some chunkier goods. So then I've got into, oh, I don't normally have the sound on. So then I got into basically a couple of modules, like fluids, power modules,
Yep.
and where's the other one? Solid. Oh yeah. So those ones seemed pretty good, quite complex, but good. I guess input to cost ratio. So these seem very popular, quite a good amount of money, and not that mental to produce. So then I'd made another sort of recipe card that produces those 3 modules in some kind of weighting. And a
Mm.
lot of that is balancing the incoming. So all said and done, you get a bunch of inputs. I need 71 kilotons of hydrogen. You go, well, that's not going to happen anytime. So for me, there's a bunch of sort of changing the recipe to get the ins manageable. Because again, I kind of as we've learned, like 1 crew 8 extractors is pretty good. Sort of modeling that a little bit. It's 5-6 day extractions work quite well,
Hmm.
but just then. And again, I was going for that monthly thing, so I'm thinking, where's the camera? Yeah, just to ripple through, like find out what that volume is, and then that's the amount of extractors I need for 1 crew. over a month doing it 4 times.
Very
So that,
precise.
yeah. So for me, that just having an opinion on all those ratios is what's been interesting.
Mm.
And then, once you go through the things, you realize, like factory, it's not often, not actually used that much. If you're just looking at a chain, it's, a bazillion refinery things. And then factory, not too bad, depends on the chain. Like actually quite quick, a lot of the factory stuff,
Yep.
30, 40-minute things. So yeah, so I found that, for me, I'm running 4 refineries, 1 factory, 1 shipyard, 6 bioreactors, and then I've built up a habitat, marketplace, and spaceport, and then just a bunch of warehouses, but most of them are empty. They're just there as footprints for expansion and storage. And then I guess my strategy, like, because of the recipe, I knew what I wanted, I knew what I needed. So I kind of said, let's buy enough for 4 months worth of production of those things. So then I have basically one warehouse with all my seeded raws.
Yep.
But I got in pretty early, which was nice because like sulfur went up a lot and graphite went up a lot once thunder brought it all. Stuff like yeah. So that's been pretty good. So I'm halfway through my stockpile. I've done 2 cycles of food drills and prop and module cycles, and actually I ran the Denker's thing, right? So I guess outlay to date is about 20 mil.
Oh,
Like I had done,
Brackmara's June dashboard.
yeah, it's
Shout out.
really handy and good to like if you're wondering about trades and what's going on in your world. It's wicked summary, and hard to find in game. This kind of summary.
Yeah.
So like I'd done well with the community dev. I was second in the one of the community dev challenges after Illyrium, but that's fine. He deserves it. Uh, so I had a bunch of sway. So yeah, I probably put about 20 mil into infrastructure currently. That's I got free LTs, so I had those free EA rocks. So I had free LTs, and then I brought all my seed goods. I rented all my lots for a year, which is having seen all the lot repossession dramas. I'm glad I did, so I never go through that challenge.
I did the same.
Yeah. So that was quite a big outlay. So I think I got down to about 65 in my sort of reserve, which I don't intend to do anything with. It's just there, and I don't particularly need to cash out, and I don't want to spend it all in game. It's just there as a buffer, really. And now I'm trying to.
Are you renting out any of your buildings here?
No, not overly. They're pretty occupied. Hey, like I have a pretty like my crews are they're all quiet now overnight. But a lot of my crews are always busy. Hey, like there's always something to do every day.
Yeah.
For them. So I did rent out my ship assembly thing because I hadn't been doing that much. But yeah, it wasn't really something I thought about. And I'd hate to want to use one of my buildings and have somebody there doing something. I screwed up the other day, and apologies to whoever owns that bioreactor. I selected it with the wrong crew, made something, and it took 20 days on the bioreactor. And it was a public one, and I felt horrible. So that's basically been ticking over, and then I have my own marketplace, which does quite well. Modules, I think that's in here as well. So I think my best trades, where is it? Sales. Yeah, so lots of solid automation modules. So like 1.5 mil of those.
Wow.
Gold, like a mil and a bit of gold, seems to be quite good. And I think most people use what they make, whereas I actually have just excess that I never tagged in my. So I just sell all my excess bits every month, and that's gold. That's some stuff that people want. Gold, phosphoric acid goes quite well where I am. And those to me are byproducts that I'll, almost sell at a loss just to get rid of them, but they're actually quite valuable. Yeah. And then you can see most of my money spent at the start just buying infrastructure, and then I actually don't buy that much.
Yeah.
And then my sales have been pretty good.
Nice. You're a dark horse. Now
I am a dark horse. Yeah.
that's a Dahlia Prime. Do you have ambitions to settle your own rocks?
I got a bit addicted to buying rocks for the crew reveal. Hey, and I would
Same.
buy a bunch of rubbish ones just because of the crew potential. And it turned out, I'd say a net positive. I'd say it was a fun experience, and you never know what rock was going to be useful in the future, right? So if the price point was good and the experience was a plus, then I was in. And I got quite addicted, and I did have to stop and say no more. So I think all up, I ended up with 15 rocks, and then that gave me obviously 15 crew. And then I think somewhere along the way, I'd purchased another 15. So I had about 15 rocks and about 30 crew, which, and then on testnet, I'd learned that too many crews, I get confused and lose track too quickly. So you know, I realized that I could handle like 7 or 8 teams effectively you know, without getting too lost.
The
So I ended
cognitive
up,
load of this game is real, particularly when you're dividing attention across multiple rocks for sure.
and then my strategy on the first and second sales was pretty much primes. I figured primary or, like just single types were the more bang for buck, like more focused, more didn't really think about the mixture. I always thought pure was better,
Sure.
it was my mindset. So I guess my namesakes, like, so I have Tyrell, who's a C, and then Utani is an M. And basically those two are beautiful together. Though they hug each other in, very nice resonance for years. So C and M type, so that was, so it's metals. I think metals are going to be amazing. Graphite is going to be amazing. And then it's not used anywhere and you need like 30 tons of it once a year or something, yeah. And then my other one that's been doing well is my CIS, wherever that went, off-world here, which does sort of resonate quite well. Every other cycle, I think it's one of those where it's kind of, it catches up. So those three are my next kind of plan. And I've been fitting out, basically the CIS is to feed my I-type stuff into the AP setup. So at the moment, I have this tiny I CIS, which I'm just extracting, just getting factory going, and just about to try and build a spaceport. So
How
then I
many
can just,
lots on this bad boy?
oh, it's tiny, eh? I want to say it's like 30 odd. 28,
Mm.
yeah. And then I have ran, as I roll a rock, as I scan it, I run a little thing in the API that gives me all my percentages so I can work out, like the Stark site thing that just shows you your plots and your weights. So I run that, and it just tells me my dead lots that I can build on. And it wasn't, basically, it was a bit rough. It's like I have one of nearly everything that's okay, which is pretty good because I've heard some horror stories,
It
so
is
I
good.
get, yeah. So hydrogen, there's a few things that are like, yeah, cool, that's wicked. I've got enough, like no nitrogen and a few others, but I don't use them much. So most of the reasonable ones, I have one reasonable plot, which is pretty good. Over a month time frame, that may suit me. That may be just enough to get what I need. So I'm probably thinking a bit small is probably the thing that I goes through my head, is that at some point I need a bit more space and a bit more volume and could make more of everything and just, but I
When
don't have
that,
those ambitions of domination just yet.
but you know that day will come. When that day does
Mm.
come, where do you think you will go? Do you have rocks of your own to expand into, or would you be looking for something else?
Like the M type, which is Utani, that's quite big. That's 700, something like that. And I
Oh
think on
yeah,
the old Mer scale used to be all right. Is it 420? And then what's my C type? See, I don't actually, I don't know all my facts yet. I know the prod chain really well. But that's 180. Yeah. So But I think my gut says is the C type, looking at all the acids and all the things like this is probably the best base long term, is
Yeah.
to bring stuff here. 180 seems all right for, I don't know, yeah. I don't know how big, I can't manage anything too big. So unless botting happens and I can run 70 extractors, like I don't want to be here running 70 extractors on my own. It's pretty bad.
Well, that's happening now.
Yeah, well, but I'm a bit, I hear the arguments for and against, hey, because I've got that. I've now got a bottable recipe thing, right? Like I am just following a command. I'm just doing it manually.
Mm.
I kind of agree that if you automate all that, what is the game, right? Like, so I kind of agree. So for me, I've always taken the approach that I wouldn't necessarily automate my things. There's definitely a repetition that can get stale, but like I built my, I watched your Colligan one, right? And talking about the H. So I don't think it's official enough to enter the competition, but I
Oh,
built.
this is Colligan's mission to build heavy transport from
Yeah. So I
pure
pretty much,
scratch.
so I pretty much have built one. But the thing that happened is because of the rounding errors, I had to buy like one component. So I made 64 instead of 65, right? So I don't qualify. But yeah, recently built my first HT from scratch, and that was like that as a milestone. That was a wicked milestone in my head, like to take basically just here's some space dust. Oh,
So
it doesn't like.
I have to put my Colligan hat on. When you say from scratch, you didn't purchase any seeded goods to
Well,
construct this?
non-C, just not. That's where it's not kosher because it was seeded eye type stuff and all that. But
It's not
yes,
pure.
yeah, not pure. That's fine. But for me, just the fact I made it from a collection of space dust, I'm
Yeah.
really happy with that. Hey, like that. That was literally 2 days ago, and that's my first. I built stuff from the what do we say, the N1, the precursor products. So I built a shuttle and a few other bits. But that's wicked. The fact that that came out the ground and that wasn't too bad. And that's my hardest recipe. That was the longest
Yeah.
to get my head around. Hey,
It's still an
but
achievement. Sorry, I didn't mean to disparage your achievement. It's
no,
great.
no, I know, but So I'm not, and I don't know if I'm interested. I think I'll let Colligan just have it. Hey, but yeah, but those little milestones. So for me, that the game is definitely rewarding in those little milestone moments. You build your first hab, you have a market, someone
Yes.
buys your first thing. Like I've enjoyed those kind of rewards.
As you talk about the milestones that are giving you satisfaction in the game, keen to get your views on. So, I mean, clearly you're enjoying it. You're still engaged. You're still working on your stuff behind the scenes. You're playing the game. Is as hardcore as anyone. What excites you and or frustrates you about the game at the moment? Give us your views.
I agree about the communication thing. Like if you didn't have a Discord, like I'm a lurker, hey, so I read Discord every day. I don't say nothing most of the time. You get a few fire emojis from me, and I'm a data hermit. So, and it was funny watching the tone change as soon as real things are involved.
Hmm.
Like the tone from 3 years of Discord of everyone just, oh, check this out, and there's a rocket, and we're wicked, everyone's so cool. And then I don't know, man, suddenly it's like, you took my fucking thing, you fucking, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, man, this is a bit full on. And I guess a precursor to combat. And so for me, that stuff, I'm wary of that because I was a elite guy, right? So I wasn't an Eve guy. I don't know how bad and toxic, you jump into the wrong bit of space and you're just pounded to death instantly. And,
Hmm.
so for me, Eve was more, elite. Like that idea of just being able to start small and trade some stuff, and then eventually get a better ship and then start trading landmines, which is fun, like you being a dark market weapons runner and then building up and getting more stuff and then the community. So for me, that's yeah, I guess that feeling of climbing in and becoming a legitimate part of an ecosystem is really interesting. And I guess, yeah, the challenge here is I guess we're building that. There's no NPCs running space stations. We're the NPCs in the future, I guess, right? So
That climb, that grind that you're talking about, um, one that's constantly rewarding from day one. This has been a discussion of late. Like, you and I are not really typical players, at least the typical type players that the game needs to attract to take off. We start with quite high value of assets and sway to kick off our infrastructure. Do you think that that climb or that grind is there from day one in a satisfactory manner for somebody who is coming fresh to the game? Let's say they've got one starter pack, they've got extractor, warehouse, minimal sway. Is there enough to keep them engaged?
I think it's a slow grind. Hey, if you were doing that, yeah, I don't know, but because again, just even time frames, you got one dude, so you click a button and you wait 1 day for an extractor to start its 5 day thing, right? Like that's a week waiting for the next thing to happen. Like it. So I think unless, because I could imagine with, because to me there's the infrastructure, which is a pain. Like it took me a month to make my infrastructure, and I knew exactly what I wanted, and it was still a long wait for the things to get built. Hey,
And
like,
you had the resources
and
to
I had the
purchase what you
resources.
needed up
Yeah.
front.
So I think even if you take the, how much money you have, just the waiting time and how that keeps your attention and the reward of that is important, and may not be instant. If you start, you may not know that pathway, and you may not know that you're doing well on that journey,
Hmm.
irrespective of if you have infrastructure. I think I could see that, and this is, I guess, the analogy with the elite stuff is the NPC. Like eventually, there'll be a place where you can go and get a mission and start a little task, right? And I guess that, in
Well, that
discussion, that's a year or two away, maybe, right? That whole kind of infrastructure and stability. But
I don't know if you're the honestly the first person that I've heard reference something like that.
I saw someone bring up community events, which is an elite thing.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's really good, where like, and even to the point where there's a tangible outcome. So we're building a space station. We want everyone to bring stainless steel, and then they have stretch goals, right? So if you bring 80% of the steel, the station gets built. And if you
yeah.
bring 85%, it gets an extra dock or, like, and that was really interesting because there's a franticness because there's a time limit. There's a huge thing that looks massive, and then you're like, oh, we're winning, we're getting there, and then you get a space station at the end of it that you can go, oh, I helped build that. So that I like that because it takes what is an individual grind and puts it towards a thing that you feel part of
Hmm.
and has influence on the things. So, and then like they have the political stuff as well, where the map is colored, and I don't know how that would work. But yeah, so for me, it's feeling part of something bigger and being able to see that biggerness. Like there was a game, and it was like 100 v 100 or something, some online war game, and it was just persistent. And you're just watching this map ebb and flow of, it's like real time Risk, and you just what, and it was great. You just join and pick an area, and you just chip away at helping someone get that area. So I guess those goals, and they should be alliance led, I guess, ultimately, if those become the power player manager structures in the game, then it's like you want alliances to have goals and initiatives, and people be able to dive into that and start using equipment that the alliance wants them to run. So whether it is just you, like anything, you join, and your first job is you run the boilers on this planet for 3 months, and we'll give you enough to pay for your ride to the next planet where you can run the hydraulic systems for a month. And I can imagine some stuff like that in the future, but it does require a lot of that, infrastructure flow and those alliances committing to, yeah, we need this much hydraulic, we have this infrastructure, I don't want to run it anymore, I want to outsource it to someone that wants to run that, or as a very tangible thing that someone can go, yes, I own that contract, I'll run hydraulics for 9 months. And I could see that. To me is really that could be interesting, because you're signing up and you're giving a duty, and at the very least that's rewarding, and you feel like you're part of something. So that, I could see that. That's, you want to get people on that rung of doing a small thing, but knowing it's part of something and it's going to be rewarding and they're going to get something out of it at the end. Like one of the things that inspired me to do my website was the Elite Dangerous Database, right? The EDDB. And like anything, you go on there and you just go, I'm here and I want to make some money. And it says, yeah, cool. Send landmines to this tiny place just next to you. And that makes it easy, because then you're just, that's telling you lots of little contracts that are available around you, I guess.
Yeah.
And with our movement, that's even more important, because that changes every day. You have a different neighbor, a different corner shop. And so I guess, and that's a tooling thing as much as anything, right? Because it's there now. And, I have, one of my views is, like, I know someone was asking for it. If I jump to the last one. Just looking at the market, right? So just being able to look at, water across every asteroid and go, oh, cool, someone wants to buy water at this price or sell it at that price and get that arbitrage.
Identifying trading opportunities that in a way that is not completely manual.
Yeah,
that's what
so like that runs for me. I just haven't got a way to host it at the moment, and that's asteroid agnostic. It will just tell you, and you can just see which, and when you see the arbitrage, it's crystal clear. You'll have a green thing here that says I want to buy it here, and someone's selling it there, and that's your arbitrage. So yeah, that stuff's really interesting, and there's a lot there. Always torn between releasing it or utilizing it for personal gain.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't have a strong, like, it needs to be like this. I'm enjoying what it is becoming, and I think all the input, I mostly go, yeah, that's cool, I agree with that, and I know the team listens, so hopefully there's a good blend of direction, input, and development.
Indeed.
I'm quite patient, though, obviously, after the 3-year wait that we had, so we're all the patient ones.
DJ, this is literally the longest interview I've ever done, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. I thank you for sharing your thoughts. Very thoughtful. And I can't wait to the day that you start releasing your tools again.
Yeah, it's close, hey, but yeah, no promises just yet. But yeah, still coming, so don't give up hope. You'll know when I do, because I'll be chatting again.
Yeah, I'll bug you in Discord when Tyrell Utani update.
Yeah.
Feed us that source.